Chapter 1291. Huge Assets. While evading deductions, Feng Yuan did not waste time. He inspected his immortal aperture .5 regions, 9 heavens. The sizes were incredible, beyond this world's common sense. 0.335000 km2 of space was already shockingly huge. Nobody would believe it if they heard of it. But now, Feng Yuan's sovereign immortal aperture had exceeded 335,000 square kilometers of space already. This was because he had been slaughtering Gu immortals and annexing their immortal apertures recently. Because of the sovereign immortal body special characteristics, Feng Yuan could completely annex other people's blessed lands and absorb all their Dao marks without any wastage. These immortal apertures added up to create many unique areas in the sovereign immortal aperture. These areas were mainly managed by land spirits. Feng Yuan could save a lot of effort. They were like tiny pearls scattered all over the 5 regions and 9 heavens. I have incredible amounts of space path resources. Normal Gu immortals try by all means possible to expand their immortal apertures, but I have so much space that I have yet to develop. Feng Yuan was satisfied with this. On the other hand, regarding the time path resources, he had a different feeling. The sovereign immortal aperture's rate of time had slowed. LOT.IT was 1 to 60 earlier. This was simply unmatched, but now, it was below normal standards. This was something he had no other way to deal with. Before Feng Yuan changed his cultivation method. In order to stall calamities and tribulations, he had to do this. He used the time path methods in He Fan's true inheritance to slow the time in his immortal aperture. With fewer time path resources now, Feng Yuan's immortal essence production fell greatly. Not just that, all of his gains in his other resources also fell. Thinking over it in detail, inside Mini Central Continent, there was the Bloodji Forest and Mirror Willows. They were from Hu immortal blessed land. Other than these, there was a small jade light pit. This small jade light pit had light path mortal Gu in it. The quantity was large. This was created in his immortal aperture after Feng Yuan took reference from the Jade Light Pit resource point of Northern Plains Lu tribe. Not long ago, Feng Yuan ransacked the Jade Light Pit and took away all of the light path mortal Gu in it. A portion of the light path Gu worms were placed into the aurora lights in the 9 heavens, but the rest could not be sold easily. Feng Yuan thus created a small jade light pit to temporarily store these light path mortal Gu. Of course, this small jade light pit could not compare with the genuine article. The latter was a true resource point. It had a lot of light path Dao marks, and any insect group placed in it would become Gu over time. But the former was only created by Feng Yuan haphazardly to store his light path Gu worms. It had no production capabilities. Mini Central Continent had the least development among the 5 mini regions. Mini Northern Plains was at a higher level. Many northern plains had flat terrain that was mostly covered in snow and ice, becoming an icy plain. But snow and ice were not its only features. Closer to Eastern Sea, there was a shallow green beach. Pieces of rocks were piled together to form a special lake. The aquatic plants inside were growing well, as spirit snakes lived in it. This shallow beach was the blessed land of transformation path, Gu Immortal Han Dong. After Feng Yuan annexed it, even the pinkish-red spirit snake land spirit was moved over and managed the area for him. Nearer to Western Desert, there was a bone burial field. There was a mountain of skeletons here of all types, collarbones, skulls, leg bones, even those from flying animals. There were lots of immortal materials that were very valuable. This bone burial field was the bone burial field that Feng Yuan took from Lu tribe. After killing Lu tribe Gu immortal Lu Yong, he moved this bone burial field directly into his immortal aperture. Thus, he had this resource point that could generate bone path Gu worms. But compared to the original bone burial field, my bone burial field may have a lot of bones, but the bone path Dao marks cannot match the original. In the original bone burial field, even the surrounding soil had bone path Dao marks. Lu tribe can rebuild their bone burial field with no problems. Feng Yuan knew this deeply. Of course, Feng Yuan had already taken 80% of this bone burial field. The most valuable thing were these bones. The remaining 20% was the soil terrain. Lu tribe could rebuild their bone burial field, but to regain its former scale, they would need to expend a lot of resources and closer to Central Continent. This was a sparse grassland with all sorts of wildflowers and grass. There were mainly blood sickle grass and red axe flowers. These were from Hu Immortal Blessed Land too. This grassland was huge, surpassing Han Dong Blessed Land. There were some pink flower rabbits, fox groups, water wolf groups, earth skin boar groups, poison beard wolf groups, and others. There was even a shark fin wolf and a desolate beast giant horned sheep. They were living in this grassland. Many Western Desert had the highest temperature. Because most of the fire path down marks were gathered here, the soil was sandy. There were 3 main resource points here. The first were the eerie fire dragon python dens. There were a lot of them in a particular area. The second was the sand gull soil beach. It produced sand gull soil. Sand gull soil was a goo material. It was also the food of Connect Luck Immortal Goo. But Fang Yuan did not have Connect Luck Immortal Goo anymore. Sand gull soil was now a resource sold to help Fang Yuan earn immortal essence stones, the center of the sand gull soil. There was the dead egg of the worldly sand gull. It was filled with cracks. There were several small holes on it. As transparent egg white flowed out of the cracks slowly. Using the life essence in this egg, one could turn ordinary sand into sand gull soil. The third was the rotten black swamp. This was formed when Fang Yuan went through tribulation. It was filled with dark path down marks. Fang Yuan had already modified it to become a dark path goo worm resource point now, but because it had just been made, its production was low. Other than these 3 resource points, there were 2 blessed lands. Point 1 was an earth path blessed land resembling a rotting swamp. There were 5 desolate beast mud monsters inside, and all sorts of earth path mortal goo. It was managed by the small mudman land spirit. The other was Lu Yong's enslavement path blessed land. There were more than 20 desolate beasts in it. These desolate beasts were all purchased in Treasure Yellow Heaven by Fang Yuan. This was because Lu Yong blessed land's ownership requirement was to have 20 hound-type desolate beasts. Among those were his 6-bone armor hounds. The entire blessed land was managed by a black hound land spirit. Many Eastern Seas development was about the same as many Western Desert. Wu Yihai's blessed land was here. This was a sea that was well managed by Wu Yihai. There were 3 ancient desolate beast horned divine tortoises, a huge field of ancient desolate plant silent corals, and 6 desolate beast white letter blue feather seagulls, managed by the sea turtle land spirit. Other than that, there was the original dragonfish group and 2 desolate beast dragonfish, air bubble fish group, as well as some rare literature carps and some oil water. There were large numbers of blue jade carps, blood jade carps, and an ancient desolate beast hidden room oyster, obtained in the turbulent flow sea area. There was another blood lake. It had a large amount of desolate beast blood and goo immortal blood. Fang Yuan had once placed blood asset immortal goo here to recover. Right now, blood asset immortal goo had fully recovered, but this blood lake remained in the 5 mini regions. Mini southern border was the richest. 5 Light Mountain, Immortal, Succession Mountain, Heaven Ceiling Mountain, and others, for a total of more than 10 mountains here. Stalactite Cave, Regretful Spider Group, a small number of rockmen, a huge forest with musical trees, tea streams, and chi death birds singing. There was a Become Dragon Mound. Fang Yuan had used Pulling Mountain Immortal Goo to move it into his immortal aperture from northern plains. And in the 9 heavens, a small field of aurora lights were in mini orange heaven. There were a lot of floating flowing light fruits in the aurora lights, and because he had obtained a lot of light path goo worms from the jade light pit, the scale of the aurora lights and flowing light fruits expanded greatly on its original foundation. And in mini yellow heaven, there was a small gold fragment current. In mini azure heaven, there was a lot of pill azure incense. This was the food of change soul immortal goo. There was a heavenly crystal storage pool. It came from Hei Fan Grotto Heaven and had no use for now. Mini Black Heaven had the walking meat tree. Mini White Heaven had multicolored overlord flowers, 3 ancient remnant heavenly dogs, 1 ancient eagle hound, and 7 desolate beast eagle hounds. Mini Purple Heaven had the upper extreme heavenly eagle, although it had only desolate beast strength. More than 80 eagle nests were floating here. These were the loot from attacking Iron Eagle Blessed Land. The original eagle nest had already been fully eaten by the upper extreme heavenly eagle. In mini blue heaven, there was a lot of cloud soil. On top of them were the arrow bamboo forest, a star fragment grass field, and an infant falling star hound. The two desolate beasts spine-fin star dragonfish had already been sold during the battle to defend Hei Fan Grotto Heaven. There was also a meteorite pit that produced stellar fire goo and falling meteor goo. After killing Yi Lui Kun Xing and obtaining his blessed land, Fang Yuan also placed it here. It was a floating island filled with star fragments. The Star Core land spirit was managing it. There were also some blessed lands scattered around, and some other desolate beasts and desolate plants. There was no need to discuss them in detail. As for Dang Hun Mountain and Luo Pa Valley, they were in Langya Blessed Land. Reverse Flow River was temporarily placed in Mini Eastern Sea by Fang Yuan. As for Goo. Worms. Rank 9 Wisdom Goo was in Langya Blessed Land. Sovereign Immortal Fetus Goo had already been used. It would not be counted. Rank 8 Immortal Goo. Attitude. Wisdom Sword. Years flow like water, sealed. Rank 7 Immortal Goo. Sword Eyebrows. Wave Sword. Flying Sword. Sword Escape. Calamity Beckoning. With Chu Du. Year. After. Dragon Breath. Affection. Perseverance. Rank 6 Immortal Goo. Unravel Mystery. Woman's Heart. Blood Asset. Dark Limit. Dogshit Luck. Change Form. Strength Chi. Self-Strength. Flying Bear Strength. Pulling Mountain. Pulling Water. Landscape as before. Man as before. Star Eyes. Spring Autumn Cicada. Contains Heaven's Will. Stored in the immortal zombie body. Bone Spike. Perceivable Tao. The mortal goo were of all different types. They will be skipped. Hei Cheng's Dark Arrow Immortal Goo had self-detonated. Fang Yuan did not obtain in terms of captives. There was Fang Zheng, in Langya Blessed Land. Hei Cheng, intact body. Ma Hongyun's soul. Luyang's soul. Yi Lui Kunxing's soul. As for Shi Nu's soul, Fang Yuan did not obtain it. Shadow Sect had incredible attainment in soul path. Fang Yuan could not stop the soul from dissipating even though he captured as for the rest, like Dong Fang Chong Fan's soul, the Featherman Gu Immortal's soul, the Eastern Sea Gu Immortal's souls. They were all sold to Langya Land Spirit for sect contribution points. They were probably absorbed by Dang Hun Mountain and made into Guts Gu by now. There was also the Featherman Gu Immortal Slave Zhou Zhong. He was sent to Western Desert by Fang Yuan to establish another plan. Huge assets. This was Fang Yuan's current portfolio. It was no exaggeration. In total. Even though he was rank 7, he could fully rival ordinary rank 8 Gu Immortals in assets. Just those secluded domains of heaven and earth were incredibly valuable. And his Gu worms were plentiful. The numbers shockingly high. Look at Gu Immortal Hei Fan. He was a rank 8 Gu Immortal. How many Immortal Gu did he have? But many Immortal Gu would create the problem of feeding them. Fang Yuan was still at this stage, trying to provide food for his Immortal Gu. The rank 6 and 7 Immortal Gu were basically fine. The problems were Attitude Gu and Wisdom Sword Immortal Gu. These two rank 8 Immortal Gu. The new Perseverance Gu that he obtained fed on Reverse Flow River's water. Fang Yuan could easily feed it. Affection Gu fed on the same thing as Love Gu, Hope and Fear. Fang Yuan could easily resolve that. He bought a large number of Hope Gu and Fear Gu from Treasure Yellow Heaven. For Fang Yuan, developing his immortal aperture was not the main point now. As long as he slaughtered Gu Immortals and annexed their immortal apertures, his immortal aperture's foundation would continue to grow. He was facing the problem of insufficient immortal essence. Pursuing Ing Wu Xie and Gang, the Reverse Flow River battle, and escaping from Mao Li Chiu, Fang Yuan expended a lot of immortal essence. This caused his Red Date immortal essence storage to fall to a critical level. Originally, with my time path resources, the rate of time was fast. My immortal aperture produced a lot of Red Date immortal essence. But after using my time path methods, the immortal aperture's time is close to the 5 regions' time. I can only replenish my immortal essence through transactions. Reverse Flow Protection Seal used a lot of the Gu Immortal's mental energy and immortal essence. Thankfully, Fang Yuan was a rank 7 Gu Immortal now. If he was still using Green Grape Immortal Essence, he would have ran out of them. Without Red Date Immortal Essence, Fang Yuan did not have much confidence. While resting, he sold all of the Desolate Beast corpses in Treasure Yellow Heaven. These Desolate Beast corpses were immortal materials of high quantity. Fang Yuan had exterminated these desolate beast groups while he was pursuing Ing Wuxia in Earth Trench. Among them were a group of nightmare demonic cults. If these Dream Path immortal materials were sold in Treasure Yellow Heaven, a huge commotion would arise. Many Gu immortals would fight for them. But Fang Yuan kept all of these nightmare demonic cult corpses with him. He had better use for them. After resting for a while, he made several transactions. After subtracting the transaction fees of Treasure Yellow Heaven, Fang Yuan earned a lot of Immortal Essence Stones. 1 Immortal Essence Stone could convert to 1 bead of Green Grape Immortal Essence. Fang Yuan was a rank 7 Gu Immortal. Using 100 Immortal Essence Stones would create 1 bead of Red Date Immortal Essence. While he was replenishing his Red Date Immortal Essence stockpile, he received some information. This is a letter from Sixth Hair. Fang Yuan felt strange. After checking it, he felt shocked. Shadow Sect wants to negotiate a truce with me. They even want us to work together? Author's note: collating Fang Yuan's assets was too tiring. Chapter 1292, Attitude Gus Problem. Chapter 1292, Attitude Gu's Problem. Fang Yuan's gaze was flickering. Shadow Sect's letter was out of his expectations. But thinking about it, it was completely logical. In the Battle of Reverse Flow River, even though Fang Yuan did not obtain a lot of cultivation resources, his battle strength rose drastically. He was at the level of the strongest person under rank 8, on par with Feng Jiuge. The increase in his battle strength gave rise to his heightened status. Actually, before this letter, he also received others, like the one from Chu Du. Chu Du spoke very politely in the letter, congratulating Fang Yuan for his victory and expressing regret at not being there. Next, he talked about his own situation. Chu Sect was now Chu Tribe, and the Supreme Elders were now all external Supreme Elders. The disciples of Chu Du were his godchildren now. And finally, Chu Du talked about his own difficulties. Because he created a tribe and became part of the righteous path, he had to expel Fang Yuan from Chu Sect. This was not his own wish, he was forced to do so. There was also one from the 3 crazed demon eccentrics. Other than congratulating Fang Yuan, they invited him enthusiastically to explore Crazed Demon Cave. They said, even if Northern Plains did not welcome him, Crazed Demon Cave would always be his home. These words were very mushy. It showed their brand new attitude towards him. Regarding Longevity Heaven, they were putting up arrest warrants for Fang Yuan. After all, he killed Ma Hongyun. However, Lu Tribe and Yi Lui Tribe, who were pursuing Fang Yuan earlier, had quietened down. Fang Yuan's battle strength shocked them completely. They quickly recalled the members they sent out to find him. Instead, they were afraid that Fang Yuan would take revenge on them. After all, Fang Yuan's strength was incredibly famous in Northern Plains now, well beyond Chu Du, and now, Shadow Sect has sent a letter seeking cooperation. Shadow Sect has a rank 8 Gu Immortal, but he has a major weakness. He becomes insane at times. Fang Yuan thought about it. He had fought Purple Mountain True Monarch in Reverse Flow River. He learned something about his condition. Actually, if Fang Yuan did not refine Perseverance Gu and create the Immortal Killer move Reverse Flow Protection Seal, he would have likely lost in the Battle of Reverse Flow River. He would have fallen into Ing Wuxia's trap. All along, Shadow Sect's remnant forces were Fang Yuan's biggest threat. Heavens will set an arrangement using Fang Yuan to steal Sovereign Immortal Fetus Gu, causing Fang Yuan and Shadow Sect to have unresolvable enmity. If Shadow Sect wanted to refine Sovereign Immortal Fetus Gu again, they would follow a method similar to what old ancestor Shui, who was using to refine Fortune rivaling Heaven. He used Ma Hongyun as the main material for the Gu refinement, but if Fang Yuan ended up in Shadow Sect's hands, he would not escape that fate. He would be used as the immortal material for that Gu refinement. He would be better off dead, but now, Fang Yuan's strength grew to a point where he could stand up to rank 8 Gu Immortals. Thus, Shadow Sect sought cooperation with him. This difference in attitude made Fang Yuan sigh deeply. Reverse Flow Protection Seal was like a weaker Immortal Gu house. He could be unscathed against rank 8s. This gave Fang Yuan a lot of confidence. But cooperating with Shadow Sect is like walking on a tightrope. Even though Sixth Hair was saying the truth, and the reasons he gave were legitimate, there were indeed benefits to all of them if they cooperated. Disregarding anything else, just the soul path trap in Fang Yuan's immortal zombie body, and the secret of the sovereign immortal body could be settled if they cooperated. However, Feng Yuan could not trust Shadow Sect. It was still the same problem. Feng Yuan and Shadow Sect could not trust each other. They were mortal enemies. How could they easily turn into allies? Even if they were rational people who prioritized benefits. The basis of cooperation between Gu immortals was not a person's reputation, but their information path methods instead. However, Feng Yuan was lacking in information path. This was his weakness. And Shadow Sect possessed powerful information path methods. Spectral Soul was a great grandmaster in all paths, ignoring everything else, just looking at Zombie Alliance and the organization Defy in Central Continent. They had used very powerful information path methods. Any organization was built upon the basis of alliance agreements. Feng Yuan could not trust Shadow Sect and did not dare to. If by cooperating, he was plotted against by them using information path methods, he would be an idiot. However, Feng Yuan did not reject them. He sent back a letter to probe Shadow Sect's sincerity. In the letter, he listed a request. Give me Attitude Gu directly if you want to cooperate. Speaking of which, even though Feng Yuan had been using Attitude Gu all along, it was not his, it was borrowed from He Lu Lan. Back then, when lending the immortal Gu, both sides had an agreement. There was a time when he needed to return it if he went past the time limit. Feng Yuan would not be able to use Attitude Gu. That was because He Lu Lan's will was inside Attitude Gu, not Feng Yuan's. And now, there was little time until the deadline. Attitude Gu was a legendary Gu worm that could be used with mental energy alone. It had outstanding effects with relatively low costs. Ever since Feng Yuan obtained it, he had passed many difficulties with its huge help. Even though Attitude Gu had no offensive methods, it was legendary in the support aspect. It had unlimited uses. Without Attitude Gu, the influence on Feng Yuan would be huge. Firstly, Familiar Face would be unusable. Even though Feng Yuan could use his Transformation Path Grandmaster attainment level to redesign this Immortal Killer move, without that rank 8 core, the entire Immortal Killer move would weaken severely. The chance of getting exposed when he pretended to be Wu Yi would be huge. It was very dangerous. If I can use this opportunity to resolve Attitude Gu's problem, that would be best. Feng Yuan was feeling somewhat hopeful that it was about time. Feng Yuan used Dark Limit Immortal Gu to increase its effect on him. Next, he stored his Immortal Aperture and set off towards the southwest direction. Central Continent, Heavenly Court. Inside the hall, Fairy Ziwei sat as she used her Immortal Killer move. Her entire body was emitting faint purple smoke from all of her pores. She was using Wisdom Path methods to deduce. Soon after, Fairy Ziwei's forehead was full of sweat as she opened her eyes. I have already used 7 killer moves, but I could not deduce the location of our Gu Immortals. Fairy Ziwei sighed. Central Continent's Gu Immortals attacked Northern Plains. After the Battle of Reverse Flow River, Feng Yuan fled the scene as Central Continent fought against Old Ancestor Shuehu and Longevity Heaven in an intense battle. Central Continent wanted to reinforce them and send help, but this first batch of Central Continent Gu Immortals had gone missing in Black Heaven. Fairy Ziwei could not deduce their locations. How could she save them? There was nowhere to send these reinforcements to. Duke Long beside her opened his eyes. He was still very weak. He was thin and frail like an old man. It seems that Giant Sun Immortal Venerable made many arrangements in Northern Plains. Have you deduced Lu Guanyi's location? Duke Long asked. Fairy Ziwei shook her head. He seems to have defensive methods to resist wisdom path deductions, but they are not strong. However, we know too little about him. If we had some crucial information, he would be exposed to us. Duke Long heard this and nodded. After a while, he spoke. So be it. Continue deducing the location of our Gu Immortals, as well as Lu Guanyi. Also, send me to Hidden Dragon Cave. Eastern Sea. Feng Yuan sighed helplessly. He had to place his Immortal Aperture down again. Lu Guanyi was famous in all 5 regions. Dark Limit's power was constantly being consumed on Feng Yuan's body. At a rapid rate to maintain his secret, Feng Yuan had to stop many times. His Immortal Aperture's entrance opened. He drew in large amounts of heaven and earth qi. The sovereign immortal body could absorb heaven and earth qi from all 5 regions. Ordinary Gu Immortals could only absorb the heaven and earth qi of their region. If they placed their aperture in other regions, even though they could absorb it forcefully, because of the differing heaven and earth chi, their immortal apertures would shake and many resources would be destroyed. Right now, the sovereign immortal aperture had too many resources, along with desolate beasts and ancient desolate beasts. Each time he absorbed heaven and earth chi, the commotion was huge. It was like a typhoon occurring, especially after he obtained Reverse Flow River. This secluded domain of heaven and earth had a heavy burden on the immortal aperture. Chapter 1293. Thoughts of Trading Goo. It was fine if Reverse Flow River was outside, but if it stayed in the immortal aperture for long, it would consume a lot of heaven and earth chi. Once he lacked heaven and earth chi, his immortal aperture would be unstable. Thus, Fang Yuan had to constantly place his immortal aperture outside to absorb heaven and earth chi and replenish it. After he finished his absorption, Fang Yuan closed his immortal aperture's entrance, arriving at Reverse Flow River. He held an immortal zombie body. It was his original body that he tossed the immortal zombie into Reverse Flow River. The immortal zombie body flowed along it. Using Perseverance, Immortal Goo, and Reverse Flow River, Fang Yuan made his experiments. He used all of the methods he could think of. However, it was pointless, as expected. The immortal zombie body's soul path, Dao marks, cannot be destroyed or suppressed by Reverse Flow River. After all, these are soul path Dao marks, not immortal goo. Rank 1 to 8 immortal goo cannot be used in Reverse Flow River. But Dao marks still work. It is like before I conquered Reverse Flow River, my Dao marks still defended me. Thus, rank 8 goo immortals were the strongest in that river. Fang Yuan continued to analyze and think about his failed experiment. He wanted to use Reverse Flow River to resolve his soul path trap. It was impossible. Fang Yuan was not disheartened. In fact, he had expected this before trying it. He placed the immortal zombie body back inside Heaven Sealing Mountain, using the goo formation to seal it again. Next, he refined goo. A nightmare demonic cult corpse was in front of him. Fang Yuan's fingers moved like blades. Golden light shone as he moved them. The golden light entered the nightmare demonic cult's body and vanished. The nightmare demonic cult's front leg was cut off. There was no blood. These nightmare demonic cults died in battle. Fang Yuan asked his immortal aperture's land spirits to process these materials first. The blood had been drained and kept elsewhere. Fang Yuan lifted the leg and immediately tore it away. Next, he breathed out fire and started to process this leg. 3 days later, the leg was finally melted into a dark purple liquid. Fang Yuan continued to throw in goo worms to refine goo. Over a dozen steps took up only 15 minutes. The dark purple liquid exploded. As 100 dream path mortal goo flew around chaotically in the sky, but Fang Yuan willed, and they quickly went back to Fang Yuan's side. 100 dream path mortal goo. This was only a leg of this nightmare demonic cult. Processing this immortal material took the most time. This step took 3 days. The rest of the steps only took less than an hour. Such efficiency was very high. It was a clear contrast to Fang Yuan refining goo in his dream realm previously. In the dream realm, Fang Yuan had to collect dream path goo materials before refining goo. There was a risk in entering the dream. He even sometimes had to use the immortal killer move, Unravel Dream, to pass the dream realm. Refining dream path mortal goo but using immortal killer moves, the cost was very high. But now, Fang Yuan had these nightmare demonic cults. Refining these dream path mortal goo was no longer like before. It is like earlier, when I used the spring dream fruit to refine mortal goo, the efficiency was great. Actually, my goo refinement method can be improved. Like the cutting method earlier, I used metal path methods. It was not the best. Some of the dream path Dao marks were consumed. When processing immortal materials, I can try other methods to see if there is a better way. While he was refining goo, Sixth Hair sent another letter. Using Langya Blessed Land, Sixth Hair was already the middleman between Fang Yuan and Purple Mountain True Monarch. In the letter, Purple Mountain True Monarch did not give in. He said bluntly, if Fang Yuan wanted to control Attitude Goo, he would need to cooperate first. As long as they worked together, Attitude Goo would be his. This time, Shadow Sect even mentioned the Sovereign Immortal Aperture's drawback. As for what it was, they did not say it. Rank 8 Goo Immortals are truly hard to deal with. Drawback. Is Shadow Sect lying, or is it true? This information had a huge impact on Fong Yuan. But soon, he calmed down. He had gone through many difficulties. This scheme or threat was nothing to him. It seems I can only work hard myself. Fong Yuan sent a letter. He bargained and continued negotiating with Shadow Sect. But he had already realized that Shadow Sect would not give Attitude Goo to him before cooperating. Fong Yuan started to design a new Immortal Killer move that he wanted to use this Immortal Killer move to refine Attitude Goo. He was soon met with a problem. The reason was that even though he had many Immortal Goo, they were not suitable for this purpose. That it was not like the creation of Reverse Flow Protection Seal. Fong Yuan had Pulling Water Immortal Goo and Perseverance Immortal Goo. They were suitable as the two cores of this Immortal Killer move. But now, Fong Yuan's other Immortal Goo were not especially useful for refining Attitude Goo. They had limited connection to it, and a lot of Mortal Goo were needed. If only there is a chance to trade Goo. This thought appeared in Fong Yuan's mind and rooted itself deeply. Trading Immortal Goo. Fong Yuan had too many Immortal Goo now. It was shocking, but in fact, a portion of the Immortal Goo were not suitable for him, or rather, they did not have much use for the time being. Wisdom Sword. Years flow like water. Even though they were not usable now, they were rank 8. Fong Yuan would not exchange them. Fong Yuan did not have many sword path down marks. His sword path attainment level was ordinary as well, but Sword Eyebrows, Wave Sword, and Sword Escape. These sword path Immortal Goo sustained a portion of his battle strength. He could not lose them. Looking over the situation, Change Soul Immortal Goo could be traded. That Woman's Heart was Poison Path. It had little use as well. Flying Bear Strength Immortal Goo was Strength Path, but Fong Yuan used Ancient Sword Dragon Transformation. This Immortal Goo was not useful. There was also Bone Spike Immortal Goo. It was completely irrelevant to Fong Yuan's current circumstances. Perceivable Dao Immortal Goo could inspect Dao marks. It had a mystical use, but to Fong Yuan, it was not very useful. He had to weigh up its value later. All in all, Woman's Heart, Flying Bear Strength, and Bone Spike, these three Immortal Goo had little use to Fong Yuan. If they could be traded for other Immortal Goo, that would be best. But trading Goo, how difficult was that? During the 5 regions chaotic war, it was very common. But now, there were few opportunities for Goo Immortals to undergo high-end trading sessions. This way, Fong Yuan continued to travel and stopped. He wanted to go faster, but it was too difficult. Along the way, when placing his Immortal Aperture, he refined Dream Path Mortal Goo and deduced Immortal Killer moves, attempting to refine Attitude Goo to make it his own. This time, as Fong Yuan stored his Immortal Aperture and prepared to set off, his expression suddenly changed. He noticed traces of Goo. Immortals Fighting. Chapter 1294. Reappearance of Chu Ying. We're finally past the regional wall. Ying Wuxia let out a breath of air. Looking at the sea, he felt mentally fatigued. He Lu Lan and Bai Ning Bing, who were beside him, were in no better condition. After leaving Northern Plains, Shadow Sect's group left for Eastern Sea. They did not have the sovereign immortal body. Each time they passed the regional wall, it was a huge test. Thankfully, they were all powerful and were elites among Goo Immortals. Even though their immortal apertures were damaged, they did not die. They were not leaving urgently. After entering Eastern Sea, they chose a random island. On this nameless island, Ying Wuxia, directed by Ning Bing and He Lu Lan, to start arranging a refinement path Goo formation. The Goo formation succeeded in activation. Ying Wuxia came to the center and took out the purple gold rock, processing this immortal material. As for Bai Ning Bing and He Lu Lan, they were outside the Goo formation, standing to defend against any intruders. Not long after, the purple gold rock melted as the Mini-Man Goo Immortal, Purple Mountain, True Monarch, woke up again. He was a rank 8 Goo Immortal. If he wanted to cross the 5 regions, he would normally have to use Black Heaven or White Heaven. But now, the parts of Black Heaven and White Heaven above Northern Plains were influenced by Lux Suppression Heavenly Palace. It was controlled by Longevity Heaven. Shadow Sect's group were not going to enter a trap. The outcome of Central Continent's Goo Immortals were displayed to them. Shadow Sect had deep foundation. Purple Mountain True Monarch went into hibernation again as a purple gold rock formed around his body. His aura was completely concealed. His vitality was indiscernible. He was just like a dead object. Using such incredible methods, Ing Wuxie brought Purple Mountain True Monarch through the regional walls and arrived in Eastern Sea. The thin layer of purple gold rock was easily refined by Ing Wuxie, who had the right method. It was way easier than the time when Lady Wan Shou had to process it. Eastern Sea. Purple Mountain True Monarch woke up and sighed as he looked at the vast sea area. Under his lead, Shadow Sex Group first dismantled the Gu formation and stored its components, wiping all traces of it. Then, the four Gu Immortals started to use the ancient battle formation omnidirectional travel that a moment later, they arrived in the turbulent flow sea area. Purple Mountain True Monarch led the way. None of the sea currents could pose as obstacles. Soon, Shadow Sex Group arrived at the center of the turbulent flow sea area. Where's the tributary of the River of Time? Unable to find the thing they needed, Ing Wuxie asked this in confusion. Don't tell me this tributary of the River of Time is already gone. It is at the fringe of the turbulent flows? Hey Lulan guessed. After some investigation, Purple Mountain True Monarch found some clues. That tributary of the River of Time has been taken away by someone. He said grimly. How can that be? Who did it? Is it Feng Yuan? Ing Wuxie first thought of Feng Yuan, but Purple Mountain True Monarch shook his head. This method should not be his. It is someone else. Forget about it. Since we cannot use this tributary of the River of Time, we will go to the next location. There is a tributary of the River of Time there too. Shadow Sex Group left the turbulent flow sea area again. Elsewhere in Eastern Sea, there was a vast sea and sky. Above the sea, a life and death battle was unfolding. Quickly leave. I was hit by his lightning soul needle. He can sense my location. I cannot escape. I cannot implicate you. Immortal Hua Dai lay in a man's arms, speaking weakly. This woman was dressed in a raiment. Her sleeves were fluttering. She wore light pink. Her eyes were showing signs of weakness. Blood was flowing out of the corner of her mouth. Her injuries were severe. Especially on her skin, there were tiny sparks shining at times. It was the sign of the immortal killer move lightning soul needles effect. No. The male Gu immortal rejected unhesitantly. He had broad shoulders and a thin waist. He wore a suit of battle armor, and even though he was covered in injuries, his valiance could not be concealed. How can I abandon you? If I escape now, how can I face Lord Miao Mingshun? Even though he said that, when he looked towards Immortal Hua Dai, there was love in his eyes that he was Feng Jiang. Feng Jiang, Immortal Hua Dai, Goei Qi. These three were subordinates of the Eastern Sea Space Path expert Miao Mingshun. Miao Mingshun wanted to find a tributary of the River of Time in the turbulent flow sea area. Thus these three Gu immortals would take turns to guard the turbulent flow sea area. When they saw any Gu immortals approaching the turbulent flow sea area, they would talk to them and ask for their help. Then you lovebirds can die together. There was only one person in pursuit. He had rank 7 cultivation level. He was named Gu 1. He wore a blue robe and had tough, dry skin, like tree bark. His eyes were shining with red light. His teeth were sharp. He had a sinister expression. This person was quite a senior and had some reputation in Eastern Sea. He was a lightning path grandmaster. But once when he was using an immortal killer move, he failed and suffered a backlash, leading to him having no choice but to become an immortal zombie. Even so, he had outstanding battle strength. He possessed 2 immortal Gu. The rank 6 immortal Hua Dai and Feng Jiang were forced to flee. Hand over. The year cycle powder, you two are quite daring to snatch my immortal material. If you hand it over, I might leave you a proper corpse. Guwen chuckled as he approached with overwhelming demonic aura. Immortal Hua Dai was anxious. We found this year's cycle powder first. How can it be yours? I have been here for half a month already, but the moment I looked away, you two took it. Guwen growled. Immortal Hua Dai was incensed. Lord Miao Mingshun found this year's cycle powder 3 years ago and set a Gu formation here. Once every few months, I would come there and take care of it. No matter how you distort the facts, you cannot change them. Immortal Hua Dai said the truth. Guwen stopped denying it. His expression turned grim. Humph, you have a sharp tongue. You will be the first one I kill. Demonic scoundrel, don't be cocky. At this moment, there was a clear voice that resounded in their ears. Who? Guwen's expression changed. he shouted. The moment he said that, the sea level rose up like a small mound. Next, from within the mound, a fierce beast charged out, causing winds to blow and water the splattered at a blue-scaled sea dragon appeared before the three immortals, speaking, "Demon, hand over your life." The three immortals saw this and understood that this blue-scaled sea dragon was a Gu immortal's transformation. Immortal Huadai and Feng Jiang were happy and shocked. Yuan was furious. "Why are you a busybody? Take my killer move." Saying this, he breathed in deeply, spitting at his right palm. He did not spit out saliva. Of course, it was an egg-sized flash of lightning. The lightning entered Gu Wen's right palm and exploded into a beam of lightning that shot out from his palm. The blue-scaled sea dragon did not dodge. It opened its mouth towards the approaching beam of lightning, dragon's breath. Gu Wen saw this and laughed in his mind. My move can last for several minutes, while dragon breath needs to be used breath by breath. How can he last? But the blue-scaled sea dragon's breath did not end. The dragon's breath was like a beam of water colliding with the beam of lightning. Next, the powerful dragon breath smashed through the lightning pillar. In a few breaths' time, it got to Gu Wen. How can this be? What dragon breath is this? Gu Wen showed disbelief and shock on his face. He quickly dodged, but the blue-scaled sea dragon turned around, and its dragon breath continued to sweep the battlefield. Yuan frowned deeply, grunting, "You guys are lucky. I will spare you this time." Saying this, he retreated, turning into a flash of lightning with incredible speed. The blue-scaled sea dragon did not give chase. It watched as Gu Wen left. He wants to return to the Gu formation. A lot of the year's cycle powder is left. Immortal Huadai pointed out Gu Wen's plan. Feng Jiang placed Immortal Huadai down and cupped his fists at the blue-scaled sea dragon. "Virtuous friend, you defeated the powerful foe. We will not forget the gratitude of saving our lives. I would like to know your esteemed name." The blue-scaled sea dragon suddenly transformed into an ordinary-looking Gu immortal. He smiled. "I am Chuing, Fairy Huadai. Have you been well?" Immortal Huadai was surprised and joyful. "To think that you are Chuing." Seeing Feng Jiang's gaze, Immortal Huadai explained, "It was thanks to Chuing that we found that tributary of the River of Time in the turbulent Flow Sea area. He was the reason Lord Miao Ming Shun could take away that tributary of the River of Time." Chapter 1295, Eastern Sea Trading Convention. So there was such a connection. Hearing Immortal Huadai's words, Feng Jiang's expression turned to joy. His suspicions were dispelled. This Chuing was naturally Feng Yuan in disguise. After he stored his immortal aperture, he found that there were traces of Gu immortals fighting in the sea areas around him. Out of curiosity, he followed the traces and wanted to see if there were some gains for him. In the end, he found that Immortal Huadai and another person, Feng Jiang, were being pursued by an enemy, and the pursuer was a rank 7 immortal zombie. At this point, such a person was a weakling to Feng Yuan. Feng Yuan had helped Immortal Huadai some time ago. He wanted to get in contact with the Space Path Gu immortal expert, Miao Ming Shun, who was behind Immortal Huadai. This person knew of a method to enter and explore the blue dragon whale. And this blue dragon whale was not ordinary either. It was nurtured by Paradise Earth Immortal Venerable and awakened its immortal aperture. It possessed a huge treasury. It was like the dogtail life, extending Ferret Mao Li Chiu of Northern Plains. But the blue dragon whale's wisdom was not enhanced. It could only swim freely in the ocean according to its instincts. Not only did Paradise Earth Immortal Venerable awaken its immortal aperture, he also used an immortal killer move on its body. Thus, this blue dragon whale had almost no predators or dangers. The blue dragon whale was mild in temperament and posed no danger, but its defensive power rendered all of those who wanted to harm it helpless. This was the style of Paradise Earth Immortal Venerable. According to a secret rumor in the 500 years of his previous life, Paradise Earth Immortal Venerable had left a true inheritance in the blue dragon whale's body. Feng Yuan remembered that Miao Ming Shun had explored the world inside the blue dragon whale many times. However, even though he had gains each time, he did not obtain the true inheritance from start to finish. Feng Yuan naturally cared about this. Thus, when he saw Immortal Huadai being pursued, He realized that this was a rare chance. He could express goodwill to Miao Mingxun again. Thus, he intervened and chased the lightning path immortal zombie Gu went away. He did not transform into an ancient sword dragon. The ancient sword dragon form could not be used openly now, because Lu Guanyi had used it to kill Yi Lui Kun Xing in Northern Plains. Right now, Lu Guanyi was the reverse flow river lord that was able to go unscathed against rank 8s. His reputation was renowned all over the world. Almost everyone knew of him. Countless people were interested in Lu Guanyi. They tried to deduce his origins. The fact that Lu Guanyi possessed an ancient sword dragon transformation was known to all. Thus, once Feng Yuan used the ancient sword dragon transformation, other Gu immortals would immediately think of Lu Guanyi. This was the burden of reputation. Even though Feng Yuan could not use ancient sword dragon transformation, he had changed form immortal Gu. He could turn into countless things in this world at will. Thus, he transformed into the blue-scaled sea dragon that was exclusive to Eastern Sea. This was also an ancient desolate beast, but its might could not rival the ancient sword dragon. However, Feng Yuan's dragon breath immortal Gu could still be used. Worth mentioning was that the dragon breath of the blue-scaled sea dragon was also used breath by breath. Earlier, he could defeat the lightning path immortal zombie Gu 1 because Feng Yuan had used perseverance immortal Gu at the same time. Rank 7 perseverance immortal Gu. After obtaining it, Feng Yuan had tried to learn more about its ability to Gu immortals nurture, use, and refine. These three aspects needed a lot of time and investment. After being in Eastern Sea for several days, Feng Yuan had already understood some of the uses of perseverance immortal Gu. Other than conquering reverse flow river, perseverance immortal Gu could allow other immortal Gu or immortal killer moves to last for a longer time. For example, the blue-scaled sea dragon's breath. If Feng Yuan used dragon breath immortal Gu solely, it could not break away from the normal limits of dragon breath. It would be used breath by breath. It could only be increased in strength. But if he used perseverance immortal Gu along with the dragon breath, then the dragon breath would be used for a long time without stopping. Of course, he could not sustain it for too long. Dragon breath had a huge burden on the throat. Even real blue-scaled sea dragons breathed it out breath by breath. This was the self-defense mechanism of life forms after a long process of evolution. Thankfully, although that Gu one had some fame, he retreated wisely after a short battle with Feng Yuan, realizing that he was a strong opponent. After all, demonic path Gu immortals focused on profits. This friend is? Feng Yuan looked at immortal Hua Dai. I am one of Lord Miao Mingxun's subordinates, Feng Jiang. Lord Chu, you are my savior. I wonder how I can thank you. Feng Jiang immediately introduced himself. It was very passionate and filled with gratitude towards Feng Yuan. No need to thank me. It was just a helping hand. I met you too coincidentally, thus I stepped in. Even though I am a secluded cultivator in Eastern Sea, I have been moving around recently. I cannot stand these demonic acts. I have this personality, and because Fairy Hua Dai is an acquaintance, I had no reason not to help. Feng Yuan was very humble. Immortal Hua Dai and Feng Jiang heard these words and felt closer to Feng Yuan. The three immortals talked for a while as Immortal Hua Dai sighed. It is a pity. There was so much year cycle powder. They are mostly in Gu Wen's hands now. Our efforts have been in vain. We should have made that Gu formation even more hidden. Feng Jiang consoled. All right, little Dai, don't blame yourself. Eastern Sea is so big, but Gu Wen found this Gu formation so coincidentally. We are not skilled in formation path. This Gu formation is already the best that can be done. If we hide it even more deeply, we will need immortal Gu. Feng Yuan smiled. I have something to say. Even though the year's cycle powder is lost, your lives are preserved. This is hope. Don't be disheartened. There are losses and gains in life. Aren't our lives just a cycle of losing and winning anyway? Feng Jiang laughed. Lord Chu speaks deeply. This is truly insightful. Immortal Hua Dai's brows were locked. She was sorrowful. I understand this too, and at a different time. So be it if this year's cycle powder was lost. But right now, Lord Miao Mingxun is attending a trading convention. One of his Gu immortal friends need this. Lord Miao Mingxun has already agreed to his request. There are only a few days left until the convention, but the year's cycle powder was taken away. What should we do? Hearing this, Feng Zhang's expression sank. That's right. We are going to return empty-handed. Even if Lord Miao Mingshun does not blame us, we will be at fault. We failed in our task. And most importantly, we will cause Lord Miao Mingshun's reputation to suffer. This is our fault. Trading convention? Feng Yuan was moved. Earlier, he was thinking about trading away some of the unsuitable immortal goo that he had to think that this would come in such a timely manner. He actually encountered one of Eastern Sea's trading conventions. Eastern Sea was the most abundant in resources out of the 5 regions. Even Central Continent could not match it. Eastern Sea goo immortals were usually more affluent. This resulted in Eastern Sea's trading conventions to be very famous in the 5 regions. They involved high-end items, and often, goo immortals would exchange immortal goo with each other. Of course, this was not to say that the other 4 regions had no trading conventions, but they were too few of them. Feng Yuan could not join them either. Only Eastern Sea's trading conventions served as his opportunity. I have immortal goo that I want to trade away. Is it possible for me to join this trading convention? Feng Yuan did not hide his intention. He asked directly. Immortal Hua Dai and Feng Zhang looked at each other. The former said, "This trading convention is very high class. We are not qualified to join it, nor do we have the rights to recommend others. But Lord Chu Ying is different. You are our benefactor. How about this? Can you follow us to meet with our Lord and see what he says?" All right. Feng Yuan nodded. Shall we set off now? He was very rushed, because time was limited. Dark Limit's power was dwindling as other goo immortals deduced matters about him. Immortal Hua Dai and Feng Zhang were a little hesitant. Their mission to collect the year cycle powder had failed. They actually wanted Feng Yuan to help them take back the year cycle powder, but they could not ask it outright. Actually, Feng Yuan was aware about their intentions, but during their conversation, he held the initiative of the topic and did not give them any chance to ask. Right now, even though Feng Yuan could go unscathed against rank 8 goo immortals, there was a flaw. It could not be used openly, be it ancient sword dragon transformation or reverse flow protection seal. They could not be easily used. Once he did, he would have to consider how to keep them a secret if too many traces were leaked out. Feng Yuan's identities and secrets might get deduced, why then Wu Yihai's identity would be exposed too. Feng Yuan had gone through so much to enter the Super Goo formation and interact with the giant dream realm. If he lost this opportunity, it would be a terrible setback to his future cultivation. Immortal Hua Dai and Feng Zhang had no choice. They could only bring Feng Yuan away from here. They really had no courage to ask him. He had saved their lives, but they still wanted their benefactor to fight against a strong foe. They really had no face to ask him to do that. The 3 immortals moved quickly without stopping. But along the way, they talked and conversed as a matter of fact. Immortal Hua Dai had seen Feng Yuan twice and had a deep impression of him, but she was unclear about the background of this Chu Ying. Feng Yuan knew about her intention to probe him. Thus he gave her half-truths about his origin. In the 500 years of his previous life, he had stayed in Eastern Sea for some time. Thus, his words were not lies. Especially some small details and experiences that he had. They were realistic. These experiences resonated deeply with Immortal Hua Dai and Feng Zhang. How could Feng Yuan show a flaw here? By the time they met Miao Mingshun, Immortal Hua Dai and Feng Zhang already had very good feelings towards this easygoing, rank 7 secluded cultivator, Chu Ying, but they did not know that Feng Yuan was the true demon. Compared to him, what was Immortal Zombie Gu Wen's act of snatching some year cycle powder? Not long ago, Feng Yuan had taken Reverse Flow River directly from old ancestor Xuehu.